the God of grace and favor and mercy.
So here we are at the first edition of the Sitdown. I'm your host Jason, and we are here today with Miss Eliza Simpson, the First Lady of the Bethel United Church of Jesus Christ Apostolic here in Edmonton, Alberta. Miss Simpson, how are you doing?
Doing great.
Excellent. Thanks for coming to the show today.
Thank you.
So today we want to get an inside look on you. We want to know a little bit more about you. We want to find out a little bit more about your life and where you're from.
Okay.
Okay? So, Miss Simpson, where are you from?
From Jamaica.
Okay, where in Jamaica?
I'm from the parish of Portland.
Okay, wonderful. And a little bit about your mother and father.
My mother and father,
Mm-hmm.
they were married and they have 8 children.
What were
I'm
their
the
names?
youngest.
Your mother and father, what were their names?
My mother name is Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
She was Edwards before she married.
Okay.
And then she married to my father, which is John Goldburn.
Mm-hmm.
So her name is Rachel Goldburn.
Wonderful. And what did your mother do?
My mother was housekeeper,
Okay. And your father?
a fisherman
Wonderful.
by trade.
Fisherman.
Yes.
Fisherman of men?
Fisherman of fish.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you have any Simpsons, siblings, Mr. Simpson?
Yes, I have 7,
Mhm.
and including myself, I'm the number 8.
Okay, wow.
Yes.
Big household.
Yes.
Many of them. Alright, and quick rundown. Do you remember all their names?
Yes.
Pop quiz.
The firstborn was Mavis.
Mhm.
Secondborn Olive. Thirdborn is Venus. The fourth is Keith. The fifth is John.
Mm-hmm.
The sixth is Phyllis.
Well, two more.
And Keith
Uh-huh.
and Jocelyn
Mhm.
and myself.
And yourself. Oh, I
Yes.
thought you were going to forget about yourself.
Amen.
Okay.
No. How could I?
So, tell us a little bit about life growing up in Jamaica.
Okay, the life growing up in Jamaica was kind of the typical Jamaican life.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't easy for my parents because they depend on their livelihood to support the family,
Right.
which was not always the way they wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
There were days when there was no fish,
Right.
and there was days when we were lacking stuff, just like any other home,
Mm-hmm.
typical, West Indian home.
Right.
But there was always something there for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, food,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and so that part of our life was one of abundance.
Right.
But we're never like lacking in that sense. There's always something. Even though we didn't have it, there was always a sharing in the community
Mm-hmm.
where somebody would just pass by and they would just give you something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the way I grew up, that's the way I live.
Alright. Now, earlier when we spoke, you mentioned your father passed.
Yes, my father passed away in 1982,
Mm.
at 82.
And
He
how
was
would you
82
describe
years.
your father, the type of man he
My
was?
father was a very, very stern father, of course.
Right.
You couldn't get away with anything, typical Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
Very strict, but very quiet.
Right.
Was a very quiet man. He lived a very quiet life, and he died very quietly.
Mm-hmm.
He was one that was very kind.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to give. He's always giving. He even give away whatever, even his own food, he would give away or save it to say that he would give it to somebody else who didn't have.
Oh, okay.
So he was like that. Yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe your mother?
Well, my mom was the kind of the father type of mother,
Mhm.
because my father was away most of the time, out fishing. He would travel to different parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes him away days and weeks. We don't see him really. But my mother now was a stay-at-home woman, so she had to look after all the kids. So it was kind of rough on her.
Right.
Wasn't easy when no financial support was there.
Mm-hmm.
But she was a woman, like, she knows how to make ends meet. She used whatever little she had
Right.
just to support the family. So my mother was a very hard-working woman, very hard-working.
Like yourself.
Yes.
Let me see where you get it. Talk to us about the church growing up. And you mentioned earlier that your mother and father weren't always in church, but there was a time when things changed.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
My father and mother were both unsaved until my knowledge of it, about 12 years old. All of a sudden, everything in the household was changed. My mother came and said she had this vision from the Lord, and she went after she said the Lord spoke to her, gave her Deuteronomy chapter 28, and that changed her life. She went into the apostolic church, she got saved, got baptized. But my father didn't follow her footsteps. He was a sort of a man, he didn't believe that you had to go to church to be saved. He believed by just reading your Bible and praying.
Only if it was that
easy. That was enough.
If it was only that easy.
Yes. So anyway, my mother was like, the one who was so determined to follow that voice, to obey God, to obey Deuteronomy 28, that's saying if you did this or you did that, you would be blessed, and if you didn't, you would be cursed. So she took it very seriously. And so when she got into the church, everything changed in the home. Now there was like contention between my mother and my father, because my mom always following her dream that she has to take part in the church activities. She had to go to church on a regular basis, just like how we do here in our church. So it took her away from the home, and so it took her away from my dad. So you can say it was a kind of a jealousy kind of thing. He felt neglected, but that didn't stop my mom. Nothing could stop her. She was just one determined woman to carry out the commandments that she said she got from the Lord. And so she brought some of the teachings from the church. She didn't get it all right, but whatever she had, she used it in the home, that we have to behave certain way. Prayer was now in the home where no prayer was before. And it used to disturb us as kids and also wake us up, so we kind of get upset at her. But I get to understand now, she was praying so we could have heard her, and then that would have some kind of impact on us. But my father now got upset, and then it was all kind of different arguments when she would leave, when she would come back, and so on. So I was the youngest at home, so I got most of it. I was like caught in the middle of the confusion, contention. But then I had no choice. I'd rather go with my mom sometimes than staying at home, because my dad was this quiet man. He never talked. He just, sit in a kind of a quiet mode all the time. So there was no actual communication between both of us. So going with my mom, there was a little bit more excitement, going to church and seeing the people perform. It was kind of amusing to me too, because I didn't understand what was taking place about people receiving the Holy Ghost, and just the whole service on a whole was strange for me. But there was something there that was exciting, that I would always love to go with her. So that but I didn't get like the conviction she had and the baptism. I noticed most of my friends were getting baptized, and I was the one that wasn't getting baptized. And my mom used to even get more angry at me. And she used to say to me, all your friends are getting baptized and you are not getting baptized. But then I would get the sort of her tongue, the lashing. I would always get that lashing out of her tongue, that she wants me to give my life to the Lord. But of course, I didn't understand anything, and as a matter of fact, I thought that the baptism was so cruel that they would take people and dunk them under the water, and they would come up catching breath, and I'm saying that's not something, that I would want to do. So that kind of drove me away. Instead of taking me further, I was looking at the old baptismal thing that I don't think, it looked like they were drowning the people. That's the way I looked at it. But so after I was about 16 years old, and I left the home to stay about a couple months of school break with my auntie. So that kind of took me out of the church setting for a while.
Now, for the youth that could be watching, what changed for you? Your mindset, because at one point you thought, baptism was a cool thing. How could they be doing this? But
Yes.
something changed for you.
Yes.
And what changed for you to kind of bring you back to the Lord?
Oh Lord, there's a lot of things that happened along the way that many times when I sat down in my quiet moments and think about it and hearing let me tell you, my mother's voice never leave me. It followed me everywhere I go. You should give your life to the Lord. You must get baptized. But there was something that happened to me in my childhood that kind of turned my desire off church a little bit, because I believe the older people were so strict, so stern on the young people. And of course, not understanding what they believe, it kind of sort of give you that desire not to, get involved in the church.
Right.
If you don't get that calling and that conviction, it's hard for you to see eye to eye with what they're saying. And of course, if I had obeyed, many times in my adult life, migrating to Canada, I regretted not accepting the Lord at an earlier age. If I knew this stuff, of course, if they communicate more to you and letting you know. My advice to the youth, growing up as a youth also in the church, and not giving my life to the Lord, you're really walking down a very dangerous pathway, because even though you might not understand everything about Christianity, just the obedience, by obeying your parents, they knows what's best for you, and I believe they want the best for you. But in your eyes, you're looking at the other side of freedom, where you see other young people going out and doing things and getting away with it. And your parents, being a Christian, was so strict, and so your freedom was really limited. And so you crave for that freedom that you're seeing on the other side. You crave for what you see other young people are doing, and they don't have to give account to anybody. It's like their own boss or whatever. And you on the other side, growing up in a Christian home with, like, my mother being so strict now, but not telling you anything. You're not getting any feedback onto what you should do and what you don't, like the path that you have to take, the straight and narrow. You see the broad way looking brighter and it looking better, so you're more inclined to go towards the world and the things that are happening in the world, because it seems like they're getting away with all these things. But I want to let them know that there's a consequence to every wrong decisions that you make. You have to suffer it. Some of them are so detrimental to you as a young person that even when God is forgiving you, you can't forgive yourself. So my advice to every young person that is in church, and I've talked to some of them that saying they don't know why they're in church, and I advise them at times that you're at the right place. Stay where you are. If you're not saved, you're safe. Because when you don't have any parental guidance or anybody watching over you, and you're not accountable to anybody, it's very dangerous. Because that's where the enemy get the opportunity to lead you down the darker path, because there's no one there. It's like they're talking about the lion and the cubs. That when one stray, what you call it now, the lion is waiting for that one sheep that went astray, and when that one goes astray, that's the one that they strike at the most. And so the thing about it is that you have friends on the broad road, but when you get in trouble, you have to stand alone. There's nobody there. So which one would you rather choose? Moses said he chose to be with God's people than to enjoy the pleasures of sin or the world. Sometimes we give up church because it doesn't look like it's glamorous, and we think that life should be more enjoyable, but I have to encourage them that that's not true. You can get your enjoyment right in church. You can get things the way God wants you to get it, and you will enjoy it better, right? Than tasting the bitter fruit. It tastes bitter in your mouth.
It's bitter. Don't taste it. Don't like
No.
it. Now, your mother was a hard worker.
Yes.
She did a lot.
Yes.
And now that trickles off to you. That's something that I think that from what I've seen of you, you're a hard worker as well. It was hard for us to get this interview because you're so busy. But how would you say your life has changed since you become the First Lady? All the responsibilities on your shoulders and things that you have to do. How has that changed?
Okay, I'll just give you a little background on how I came to
Go ahead, by all means, go ahead.
When I migrated to Canada, I said, oh, freedom at last. No parents, nobody to see me. My mother didn't allow me to go to the movies or anything like that. When I say she was strict, she was very strict. And I will just put this in there. The first movie I saw, I fainted because I thought it was true. Never believing that people could act. I didn't know anything about acting because when you grow up in a community or a home that doesn't have TV and doesn't have radio, you're locked out. You're not exposed to the real world.
Right.
And so it's not something that people communicate to you about movies. Movies goers were like bad people. Yes, if you go to a movie or a dance, you're not morally good. So those things were hidden. So when I came to Canada, I tried to get over the fear of going to a movie, just to sit there and watch people shoot people and use knife and stab people. Lord, it just took an effect on me. There was a fear of going to a theater. But I muscled up one day and I said, you know what, I'm gonna try. Since I came to Canada, my mother is not watching me anymore. I came here at 18 years old.
Okay.
Yes. And at 18, I did not know that movie wasn't real. So that's how sheltered I was from the world. So I muscled up one night and I said, I'm going to try. And so I went to this theater. And believe me, for the whole night, my head was down. She said, yes, you don't have to get nervous over it. But it took me a long time to overcome that. When you don't grow up having certain things or watching certain things, it's hard to overcome that. It's something that you have to put in your mind to know that it wasn't real. So anyway, that was another barrier that I had to cross over. So now getting from Toronto, somebody invited me out here in Edmonton, saying, because Toronto life was too fast for me. I didn't like it. It's just too much. I'm a fairly quiet person, and I like the quiet country life because I grew up in the country. So they were telling me to come out here was better. And so they persuaded me, and I said, okay, I'll just come and try it. I came out here in Edmonton 1979, and it was very cold. It was the coldest place that I could ever think of, because in Toronto it wasn't that cold to me. So it was a different kind of climate when I came out here in Edmonton. But anyway, I endure. It wasn't developed as it is today. It was underdeveloped. There was a lot of land and trees and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I decided that I had no choice because I couldn't go back to Toronto because I gave up everything there. And so then I said, well, I have to settle here. And finally, to cut the story short, I had this hunger in me to know God. It was just something that awakening in my spirit and made me become so conscious that there is a God. Because when my father took in help and I went to Jamaica just before he died, there was something in me saying, where is he going? You know, he's leaving this world, he's leaving me, he's my father. How could he just bring me here and just leave me and gone? And then I started even a deeper search, as to the reality of this world and what I was living in, and the questions that I had growing up in church start coming back. And with my mom, I know she lived, I know she keep telling us to get saved. No, my father was dying, no, he wasn't saved. And so all that thing, the fear came in me as to, he has no time now to repent, he has no time to come back and ask God for any forgiveness. So I started that self-search and seeking for the Lord. And it's that at that time that the Lord really touched my life. And I get to realize that before I left Jamaica that God had anointed me, my mom said. And so I didn't even understand what she was saying to me really about God giving me a gift and anything like that. So I left Jamaica and came back here to Canada with my father's Bible, because that's all he left. That's the only legacy that he had left for the family. My brother wanted to take the Bible, but somehow I said, no, I want this book. I didn't know what was in the book, but I just want something that belongs to my dad. That was the only thing that he had left, and I wanted it. So I took back the Bible with me here in Edmonton. And at one point, I remember I start reading it, but it didn't make any sense to me, really. I couldn't understand it. So I remember I started to, this inward, I'm talking inwardly and saying, what have I left out of my life? Why is it the way it is? Because I wasn't happy. It didn't matter what I do, where I go. I wasn't a person that have lots of friends or anything, just work and home. And then I started saying, in my thinking, my thoughts, saying, what did I leave out of my life? Why it is the way it is? And I heard a voice said, God. And I got so scared because the voice was so real. I started looking to see if somebody was in the house. Who spoke? Who was that person? It's only me that was in the house. So I got up from where I was and I looked everywhere. Look up in the kitchen, everywhere. I went upstairs and I started looking. I said, oh, what was that voice? Who was that man that spoke to me? And from then on, there was just consciousness that God is real. Here it is, little by little. My mom is telling me that the experience that I had in Jamaica was the Lord lays hands on me. I remember the vision that I got that night. The man gave me a Bible and he said, go in the name of Jesus. And that's all the little vision that I had. So when I left Jamaica, I had that thinking. But there was so much things to sort out in my life and in my mind that other things started to distract me. But this voice that spoke to me that day, and I got up, I got so self-conscious that, God is real. Because I heard this voice and there was no man in the house. So I started seeking now as to how I could get to a church. And I remember I got so consumed with the thought of God, the fear of God. And the decision now that I have to make is either that I follow that path of finding God or just living a miserable life. The life that I was living and getting no benefit from it. So I remember one morning I didn't go to work because I felt so overwhelmed with everything, and I was sitting down on the chest. No, I was in the kitchen and I was doing something, but I had the TV turned on and it was on this channel, and then it seemed like the program that was on had finished, and then Huntley Street came on, 100 Huntley Street. And it was on that program that drew me a little closer because they were talking about Jesus. They were talking about this lady that got healing and how her life changed because of this experience, and how abused she was, and how when she came to America, they invited her to this convocation and she didn't want to go because she was so scarred. She had pulled out all the hair from her head and it was so sore that she didn't want anybody in public to see her that way. But then she said that the last day, the friend came back to her again and said, do you want to come to the meeting? It's the last night. And she said, okay, I'll come and see what it's all about. And she said she came, and at the end of the preaching, they did some altar call, and she went up. She was saying to herself, but why should I go? I don't see no room. It's like there was no room at the altar for her. But then she felt somebody pulling her, and she got up and she found a little space in between, and she kneeled there. And then the preacher came and laid hands on her head, And she said she felt like electricity was going through her entire body. And she said that experience that she had is like she knew that there was a God that loved her because she was so abused. She didn't believe nobody loved her because the husband that she thought had loved her just abused her when she came to this country. And so that kind of caught my eyes because it was a little bit of my background. And so I said, well, if Jesus can do that for her, then he can do it for me too. And I started crying. I broke down and I wept like I've never wept before in my entire life. I can't ever remember the day I ever cried, but that day. And then I said, in my heart, I'm saying, I got to find somebody to talk to. So I phoned up the 1-800 number that they had at the bottom of the screen, and I got somebody on the prayer line. And I was bawling so much that I couldn't talk. And she was saying to me, how can I help you? And I said, all I know, I just needed a church to go. I said, do you know any church that I can go to? And she said, well, there's several churches. In what area of the city you live in? And I said, I am on the East End. And she said, but I didn't even understand that there were different religions and different churches. I thought church was just church. So then she said to me, oh, we have a Beverly Alliance in the East End. They're close to your home. Maybe you could go there. And then she prayed for me, and I hung up the phone. And then the next Sunday, I went to this Beverly Alliance. And walking in there, I felt out of place, really. I just feel like, you know, what am I doing here with all these strange people? I don't know anybody.
So what brought you to
Bethel? That's where I'm going now. All right. So with that, they sent home somebody to give me Bible study from that church, that Beverly Alliance. So he came to my home quite a few times giving Bible study to me. But every time I asked him a question, he always never give me the answer that I was looking for. So I'm thinking, but he came to give me Bible study, and I'm asking, because a lot of questions starting to come up in me now about God. And then I'm saying, he should be the one that stays with me and feed me because I want to know. But then he would say, oh, it's time for me to go, and he would just get up and go. And then I said, well, what is this? I mean, he came here to give me Bible study, and I'm asking him questions, and he's not giving me the answer. But anyway, I went to the church that Sunday again, and I said to the man, I think I want to be baptized. And he said, well, if I don't have to, I don't. If I don't want to, I don't have to. And I'm thinking, baptism is not an option. I want to go to heaven. I want to reach close to Jesus. And that's why the questions I was asking this man that came to give me the Bible study, I was asking all these kind of questions. And I want to get saved. I want to get into a church. And he said to me, the preacher said to me, you don't have to if you don't want. And I said, well, this is not the church for me. Because the little Bible I brought with me from my dad, the part that I seen there, is telling me that I have to be baptized, all right? And so how come he's telling me that I don't have to? So I said, well, maybe this is not the place for me. So anyway, I just got carried away that Sunday after I left the church and said, well, where am I going to go? I have such hunger for God, but they're not giving me the right teaching, the right answers that I'm looking for. So I came back home, and I met this lady in the complex that I was living in. Her name is Sister Valerie Nethersoul. She had 2 children, and she used to ask me if I could babysit for her, and this is how I got the connection. So when she lost her children's father, I become very, very concerned about her, knowing that she's a single mother with 2 kids and the dad is gone. So I remember I phoned her up and to find out how she was doing, and she said to me, I said, don't you think we should serve the Lord? I said to her, I want to be baptized. Don't you think we should baptize? And then she said to me, you know, I baptized already. And I said, really? She said, yes. I said, where? And she said, there's a church in the West End. I went there to a banquet, and these people came last week and bring prayer and Bible study. The thing got so interested to me. I said, tell me more. Yes, that day I said, well, this is it now, Lord. Making up my mind that I'm going to do this for you. it's not just about me, it's about the ministry and how effective I can be in the ministry, and also to help pastor with the ministry. Because I saw so many things that needed to be done, and I just wanted to make sure that God was with me. So that day I just gave myself to the Lord. I felt excited that I was making the step, a positive step in the right direction, and there was no return. So I said, this is my day, I'm just going to enjoy it. And I'm married to somebody that I respected. He's a godly man. And I remember at one time I asked the Lord, I said, if you're going to provide me somebody, make sure it's somebody who loves you more than I do. And I must say that the Lord gave me a godly husband, and we pray together still. And so for my encouragement to all the ladies out there, just keep working for God, do your best for Him. He said, seek the kingdom first and His righteousness, then all other things shall be added unto you. So just keep yourself devoted to God, and God will make the choice for you. Just wait on Him.